Let's look at the inverse to the dollar, which is the euro currency. We're looking at the futures markets here, and then we'll switch over to the cash after the British pound. So here's the extension on the downside. So what we were looking for in here was this to hold up and then to get a stronger move up here in the euro. Once it gets below the supports over here, it changes that. And on February 12th, the projections were significantly lowered as it was testing this significant low over here. On the 14th, as it broke the low, the projections were lowered again. So while we had these pointing up here to these areas, the cycle tells us about how to project based on where it moves. And this now in this red zone moving to the downside with potentially a little bit more time to go as we have widened these bars just by one click on the minor cycle, which opens it up 2 clicks on the dominant. That gives it a brief period of time in here on these alignments for the dollar to make a little higher ground and for the euro to make a little lower low. So our original projection of the low coming right around in here, first week of February or so, now is pushed out a little bit by a couple of weeks based on the change that's occurred. So we adapt as the patterns change. So this looks to us, you see these arrows that we put in here, we didn't know whether the old cycle right there or the revised cycle right over here was going to bring you the low. And so there's a low forming right in here, and we anticipate it's going to be turning up. And that's in alignment with the euro currency on the weekly making its bottom. The bottom due right in that time frame right there. The bottom due on the daily chart right over here. Note the very significant negative momentum. Now, 111.70 all the way down here, it breaks to 108. I mean, just a huge decline on the negative momentum. So that's the importance of understanding momentum. Momentum negative, you get a sell confirmation right over here on the projection oscillator. So everything was telling you that the euro was going down. That meant the dollar was going up. And it's very clear when you look at those correlations. Now, the euro has work to do. It's got to build the bottom in here, and we don't see it yet. /6B is the next one we're going to look at, which is the British pound. This has got a very powerful pattern in here, and we saw the upturn come 2 weeks ago. Right there, which was a little bit late based on the way these patterns are set up, but that's okay. It's not outside of the principle of variance. And then started to move up. Now, this is important because I just said that, this is okay. It's not outside of the principle of variance. But if this now takes out a lower low in here, that will then start to violate and will then cause us to lower our projections. So in our opinion, this is a very key time for the British pound. It's got to reverse and go back up in order to be able to hit those extensions and be in the bullish pattern it's in. If it does not, then there's going to be a sick situation of only a several week rally and then it turning down and coming down into May. I don't want to see that based on this, very constructive pattern that we see in here. So how will we know? Well, we'll know if it breaks down here, and what it will be doing is almost identical to this right over here, where it put on a couple of week rally and it came and broke that level, and look what happened. It fell for 3 months after that as it got into the red zone. That will create a red zone in here, and that will be worrisome, very worrisome, that the anticipated big rally for the British pound came before Brexit and then ended. So we're watching that very closely. When I look at this pattern right over here, you will see that this low that we were looking for right here, that aligns with this low right here, this low here. This really has gotten late, and if it gets underneath this level right over here, it's going to start to get worrisome to us. So this key level around 120.885, and we do not want to see it break under that. There's a shifted cycle in here that would potentially be the cycle we would following then on the downside were to break that level, we're going to be very cautious in here on the British pound. It should be making a bottom, and it is not. Again, with the dollar so strong, that might be a factor in here, and with the dollar not, in our opinion, getting to a point where there's not a lot of upside left, that the British pound may be able to make this bottom and then look a lot better. So we're hoping for that.